Delta Flight 4819 crash in Toronto. What happened and how to cope with fear of flying? Welcome back to Resurface from Fear. Today, we're addressing a recent and distressing event, the crash of Delta Flight 4819 at Toronto Pearson International Airport. We'll provide an overview of the incident and discuss strategies to manage the anxiety such events can trigger, especially for those with a fear of flying. Incident overview. On February 17, 2025, Delta Connection Flight 4819, operated by Endeavour Air, was en route from Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport to Toronto Pearson International Airport. At approximately 2:45 p.m. local time, during landing, the Bombardier CRJ-900 aircraft overturned on the runway. All 80 passengers and crew were evacuated. Reports indicate that 15 individuals sustained injuries, with a child and 2 adults in critical condition.
A Delta Airlines flight into Toronto. Flight 4819 appears to have flipped over following landing. The Toronto Pearson Airport released a statement on X saying, quote, "Emergency teams are responding. All passengers and crew are accounted for." The flight originated from Minneapolis-St. Paul. Senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins me now. Chris, what do we know?
Well, John, we understand that some federal officials are hearing reports of some injuries here, but again, the airport says everyone is accounted for. There are images trickling out that show this CRJ-900, which is a regional jet. It was operated by Delta's regional carrier Endeavour, but operating as a Delta flight. The plane appears to be upside down, the wings and tail ripped off, the nose landing gear still in place. People are being taken off the airplane. Medical crews have responded in Toronto. The Toronto Pearson Airport had gotten a significant amount of snow over the last week. In fact, over the weekend, they were working quite hard to clear. It had been about 7 inches of snow going into yesterday. So weather conditions there will be something that will certainly be looked at here. But we're looking at another U.S. airliner, this one operated as a Delta Connection flight that had an accident while or shortly after landing, in this case in Toronto. We don't know how many people are on board yet, but the airport says everyone is accounted for. We hear that there may be some injuries, but it does look like the cabin of the airplane, the passenger area of the plane, remained intact fully when whatever went wrong, and it went wrong with enough force, it appears, to have ripped the wings and the tail off the airplane, and it came to rest there on a runway in Toronto. Obviously, this is an unfolding situation. A lot of questions about how this could have happened. What could have resulted in this plane essentially flipping over as it was touching down or shortly after touching down from Minneapolis-St. Paul. John.
Chris, is there anything in that terminology, all are accounted for, that we should take any clues from or that can be put into any further context? Or are they just literally trying to give us the limit of what they know without trying to get ahead of themselves, which is also something we won't do?
I think it's that. I think it's an effort to not get ahead of themselves. We don't know how many people were on this aircraft. The airport says passengers and crew all accounted for. Certainly, they're going to have to be assessed for injuries. It would be almost unfathomable to think that no one was hurt in this kind of accident. So there will likely be some injuries. We are hearing that federal authorities are receiving some reports or some indications there were injuries. Because this incident happened in Canada, the Canadian version of the NTSB will lead this investigation. I've spoken with the U.S. NTSB. They are aware of this incident. They will essentially be invited to join as a party. They will contribute whatever investigators or research investigative power that the Canadian equivalent may need. But this will be led by the Canadians with the NTSB assisting wherever they can here. John, this comes after a real startling period of aviation accidents involving U.S. aircraft. If we think back barely 3 weeks ago, you had the mid-air collision over Washington, D.C. That killed 67 people. 2 days later, you had that Learjet crash in Philadelphia in spectacular fashion, caught on camera. We saw that. That killed 6 people on board, 1 person on the ground, 10 people in a Cessna Citation flying in Alaska en route to Nome. And then just last week here in the Phoenix area, area. That plane that had a landing gear collapse on landing and crash into another plane, that killed at least one person and injured several others. Now we have this incident, which, fingers crossed, we are hoping what the airport means by accounted for is that everybody survived this crash, but we just don't know that, and we don't know the extent of any injuries just yet.
Chris Van Cleve, Senior Transportation Correspondent. Thank you very much, Chris. We're now going to talk to transportation safety expert and analyst Robert Sumwalt, who joins us. Mr. Sumwalt served as the chair of the National Transportation Safety Board. What's your first reaction to this? A CRJ 900, Chris reports the tail and wings have been sheared off. It's upside down. Your thoughts?
Well, I think my first thoughts, John, are I'm glad to hear that everyone is accounted for. And hopefully, as you indicated, hopefully that does mean that everybody is at least okay. And
what does it suggest anything to you that that the plane is upside down? And obviously we don't want to speculate about things beyond the pictures that we're seeing, but or go too far. But a plane being upside down on the tarmac there, does that suggest anything to you?
Well, I think, as Chris indicated, it's a lot of snow there and on the airport. And I think that, the airport could have been sliding and then somehow or another gone off the runway and gone upside down. So it's really, as you know, it's just a lot of speculation at this point.
And we won't go any farther than that. Help me understand the coordination with the Canadian version of the NTSB. Chris says they'll be taking the lead. But obviously, since the flight originated in the States, I would assume there's a protocol for NTSB working hand in hand with them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada does an excellent job, and the NTSB will be invited in as an accredited representative, since it is a U.S. registered airplane and U.S. operated airplane. NTSB will be invited in, so they will work hand in hand together to determine what happened here, and most importantly, come up with recommendations to keep something like this from happening again.
All right, Robert.
While the exact cause of the crash is under investigation by the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, it's important to recognize that modern aviation is exceptionally safe. Incidents like this are rare, and each one leads to thorough investigations aimed at preventing future occurrences. Coping with fear of flying, hearing about such events can understandably heighten anxiety about flying. Here are some strategies to manage these fears. Educate yourself. Understanding the rarity of aviation accidents and the rigorous safety protocols in place can provide reassurance. Limit media exposure. Continuous exposure to coverage of such incidents can amplify fear. It's okay to step back and limit your media consumption. Practice relaxation techniques. Methods such as deep breathing, meditation, or progressive muscle relaxation can help manage anxiety symptoms. Seek professional support. If your fear of flying is overwhelming, consider consulting a therapist specializing in anxiety disorders or phobias. Our hearts go out to all those affected by the Delta Flight 4819 incident. Remember, while such events are tragic, they are exceedingly uncommon. By focusing on factual information and employing coping strategies, you can manage your fear of flying. Stay informed, stay calm, and as always, let's work together to resurface from fear. For more updates and support, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. Share your thoughts and coping strategies in the comments below. Video footage of the incident can be found in the description below.